the current economic crisis was caused by the current government because they mismanaged the economy? Because many of the view that this was one of the major reasons. There were tax cuts and poor economic policies being taken.
From 2005 to 2015, they simply estimated, this international agency estimated that 19 billion US dollars being somehow, that siphoned off from the country, right? By way of, that overvaluing or undervaluing the export-import thing, and also direct commission. The government, the problem is, especially the governing family, they need commissions from each and every project. That's the reality.
If a future government is formed and if there are politicians with allegations of corruption, do you believe that these individuals should join future governments?
I think that must be addressed.
Welcome everyone, you're watching yet another episode of Conversations with Alanki. In today's episode, I look forward to having a conversation with parliamentarian MP Patali champika. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having this conversation with me. You know, you're being talked about a lot these days, and there are rumors that you might be the future common candidate for a future election in Sri Lanka. So my question is very straightforward to you. Let's assume that a party such as the UNP joins with another party, like the SLPP or SLFP, and invites you to be the common candidate to lead the country. Will you accept?
The thing is that actually country is now going towards a bankruptcy.
Yes.
No questions about the presidential elections, which is to be held on 2024. So we are now more focusing on how to avoid this economic crisis here in Sri Lanka, not focusing on this presidential race.
It would be right to say that there are many who are quite dissatisfied with the way things are going in the country. People are faced with many challenging situations. There's an economic crisis. What are your views? As a parliamentarian, what would you suggest to help revive the economy?
The thing is that it's a multiple crisis. In one side it's pandemic, and now it's some drug shortages are there. So it's a kind of a health problem. On the other hand, it's a kind of a food shortages, and food prices are skyrocketing because of very few reasons. For example, the fertilizer ban in 2021 May. The other reason is printing of money, which create kind of inflation, and also the importation of the food item being restricted, right? Because of these three reasons, we can simply experience food shortages and skyrocketing of the food item. So our food security has gone, that's for sure. And the most important thing is the energy crisis that we are now facing.
Indeed.
One side it's fuel problem, fuel shortages are there. The other side it's electricity problem, power outages are there. So you know that the bloodline of the economy is energy. So without energy, you can't revive economy, right? So it's a basic crisis that we are facing. On top of that, and if you take the holistic view about the multiple crises, it can be categorized as a kind of a financial crisis. One side it's dollar deficit there in our foreign trade and other things. On the other hand, it's a rupee deficit because of our this budget, and it's a kind of a twin problem. One side it's a budget deficit, the other side it's a current account balance problem or the balance of payment problem. So now it's reached to an unbearable burden to the people, and country is moving towards bankruptcy. So we have to somehow avoid this situation, unless otherwise we need another 10 years time to recover, right? Like in Greece. Greece went bankrupt in 2010. Now it is 2020-22. Some 12 years has been, that lapsed. And but still, Greek is suffering, right? Like in Argentina. Recently, they are in Lebanon. So we have to have a proper action plan. V43 Brigade propose 5-point formula. The first thing is the fiscal consolidation, somehow to achieve zeroing there in the primary balance. The second thing is debt restructuring. The third thing is kind of a level playing, market oriented, the trade investment atmosphere to make it. The fourth thing, we have to somehow achieve the food security and also to improve and enhance our productivity in each and every field. They are in our economies, especially they are in our small and medium scale, production side. The fifth thing is to improve our image here nationally and internationally as well. So these are the 5 points we propose, and it should be, I think, various other parties also proposed things. Recently, former speaker Karu Jayasuriya led Sadharana Samajayak Sandha වූ ජාතික ව්‍යාපාරය, they proposed some 16 points. The advocata also, that present some formula to the Sri Lankans to somehow avoid or address this issue. Even the JVP-led NPP also proposed some principles, and various other parties are trying to, put forward their ideas as well. So we must have a minimum action, that consensus should be reached to have a minimum agenda to implement. I think it's going through the party lines, right? It should be beyond the party line, beyond the political ideology. So we have to have that kind of consensus. Unless otherwise, our future being, especially for our younger generation, our future being kind of a doomed this thing.
Do you think the current economic crisis was caused by the current government because they mismanaged the economy? Because many of the view that this was one of the major reasons. There were tax cuts and poor economic policies being taken.
The thing is that many are actually blaming all the governments from our independence. There's an element of truth, right? But the problem, I think, really began after 2005.
Yeah.
We got kind of commercial loans. That means the high interest rates and short-term loans, and we invested this money in the long-term projects without considering their economic feasibility or the financial sustainability. Right. The other thing is that the corruption.
Yes.
It's not a 15% corruption. Sometimes it's 400%. Sometimes it's 2000% corruption. Right. Especially there in the expressway network, we can see this huge corruption has been taken place, and a lot of huge money being that siphoned off from the country. From 2005 to 2015, one estimate, that they simply estimated, it's an international agency, estimated that $19 billion being somehow siphoned off from the country, right? By way of that overvaluing or undervaluing the export-import thing, and also direct commission and other things. So at that time in 2015, our total foreign debt was 24 billion. Can you imagine the size of this corruption or the whatever the that amount,
Yeah.
the big amount being somehow siphoned off from the economy, right? So that would be the main reason. From 2016, we had to repay, right? So the same problem arise there in 2016, right? In 2013, our total debt repayment, I mean the interest plus the principal part, was around 2 billion US, right? Now it's around 8 billion,
Yes.
right? So 4 times more. We hope that by 2023, it may be around 10 billion US dollars. So 500%. During that time, our GDP, the growth of our GDP, or the increase of our GDP is around 20%. So the debt burden, especially the foreign currency debt burden, going up by 500%, but our GDP is growing around 20%. So that would be the huge gap, right? So we are now facing a real crisis, real financial crisis. For example, right now, we are experiencing net foreign asset there in our banking sector is around -5 billion US dollars, right? Our reserve level has been depleting, and it's now around less than 500 million US dollars. And our the debt obligation in the coming months, I mean for the coming 12 months, it's around 7 billion. So you can see how we can repay these things. What is the government strategy? They simply cut our consumption. They cut our, the power, cut our fuel, cut our food items, cut our medicinal drugs. So that way they repay the loans. That's what happened. So the country actually has been facing this problem during, that the budget deficit was there from 1954, but right now it's kind of a chaotic situation, uncontrolled situation right now, and ungovernable situation right now. The present government monetary policies or the fiscal policies or the economic policies aggravate the crisis. For example, they simply do away with the taxes, giving kind of a tax relief package there in 2019 1st December. 40% of the government revenue simply being slashed, right? 40%, right? And after that, they simply abandoned the IMF program. IMF program was there till June 2020. They simply rejected it. And they simply terminated a lot of foreign funded low interest projects, like this Japanese funded light railway project, right? It's 0.1%, right? 0.1%. There were 4 corridors, right, for the light railways. It's around 8 billion project, and if we properly implement that project alone brings us at least 2 billion US dollars per annum, right? So they simply terminated it, and now they are trying to.
What is the reason for that?
I think the government, the problem is, especially the governing family, they need commissions from each and every project. That's the reality. So without having this, no one can do any project or any investment, even any investment here in Sri Lanka. So now they are trying to put up an elevated road from Dematagadu to Aturugiliya at the cost of around 1.9 billion US dollars, right? Its real cost is 4.75, 475 million, right? Nearly 4 times more.
So, like
So
you,
that's the situation. So their greediness, and also they are allowing some henchmen, some cronies to monopolize the things. For example, there are over 60 odd sugar importers, right? One fellow actually was allowed to monopolize it. Some 200 odd tile importers. Two guys were allowed to monopolize that business, right? Like that, they are now monopolizing the things, monopolizing the market without adhering to the market open market policies. It is very harmful to the economic activities there. A lot of investors not going to invest here, not going to buy these lands that are being trying to sell by the Selandiva. A lot of these valuable lands there in Peta area,
which are being sold
Port
off.
area, right? Even the Foreign Ministry building, the Air Force headquarters, the Navy headquarters, the Bank of Ceylon headquarters, People's Bank headquarters, right? All these being up for sale by Selandia, but no one is going to buy, right? During our time, we had planned to, bring 4 investments there in Port City, right? One for this financial city, other one for the international, this university type thing. Actually, it was decided to ask Cambridge University to have that their thing here via Malaysia, and the international hospital from Singapore, and international convention hall from Dubai, right? So all these investors now simply not going to invest, right? So that's the investment front, and also they are in our entrepreneurs, the local entrepreneurs are being totally ignored or sidelined, giving opportunity to few cronies to siphon off huge monies.
That's a real sad state of affairs. Mr. Ranulkar, I remember you stated that in 2005 you supported the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa because you wanted to defeat terrorism.
Yes.
And then you decided to move away because you witnessed corruption. What did you do to address this corruption?
The thing is that first I was appointed as a minister in 2007. So our ministry, basically, we had a proper professional teams, right? And within 1 year's time, we simply transformed the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources into a profitable agency.
Right.
Right? Almost all the ministries, that I assume duties as a minister, right? Simply transforming into a profitable entities. How do I achieve this? Introducing, inducting proper professionals to that high post, and that what you call this applying the scientific governing models to evaluate and deliver things. For example, during this famous 100-day program in 2015, I was the Minister of Power and Energy. That means all the Ceylon Electricity Board and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation under our ministry. So during that time, no power cuts. Actually, power tariff, the electricity tariff, been reduced because we removed so-called fuel adjustment charges or the surcharge, right? And during that 100-day program, the profit we earned, it's 20 billion. 20 billion profits from the CEP without having any, power cuts and also reducing the electricity tariff. We were able to transform this huge entity, the loss-making entity, into a profitable venture, right? And also take this CPC, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. We gave, I think in 2015, January 27th, I was assumed duties as January 15th, within 15 days, we simply reduce the cost of fuels, the diesel prices, the petrol prices, and kerosene prices, and jet fuel as well. So we gave kind of a 67 billion concessions to the people, right? And we transformed this entity into a financially viable entity, the CPC. No dollar loans, right? No obligations from the other side. During that time, only 4 entities supplying fuels to us. But when we open up and let competitions to supply fuels to us, 69 entities were here to supply fuels to us, right? So we also use kind of a new techniques like balance scorecard to evaluate our individuals. I mean those who are responsible for various institutions, to evaluate individuals and to evaluate institutions as well, right? In 2018, the speaker Karu Jayasuriya introduce kind of a new method to evaluate ministries and institutions via parliament. That is the Public Accounts Committee. We got the gold medal, our ministry, the Ministry of Megapolis. We did huge mega projects, not a simple thing, the port city, the underground tunnel network here in Colombo city to address this flooding and wastewater system, and also the LRT system, and also the garbage problem here in Colombo. That has been resolved. No one now talk about this, right? Those days, people were talking about the garbage dumps in Meetotamulla, garbage dumps in Boomandol, and various other places. Now no talk about all these things. That era has gone. Why? Our ministry introduced waste to energy project in Kerawalapitiya and a scientific landfill there in Putlam. All these, the scientific landfill that was being now abandoned somehow, but the problem being solved. And various other huge projects like LRT, like bus rapid transit system, this bus priority lane being introduced by us, right? We implemented all these huge big projects, right, without any corruption, and also the efficiency, efficacy, and productivity from the true professionals in this country. So that's how we got this gold medal, right? So we know if we apply scientific governance model to the entire ministries and government agencies, right, properly, and proper evaluation system for the individuals and the ministries, even the ministers and the departments, I think Sri Lanka will get kind of a financial and economic benefit.
All right. Moving our attention away from the economy and moving on to the SJB.
Yes.
As the main opposition, do you feel that the SJB is making a significant impact?
The thing is that the SJB is actually a breakaway party from the UNP, So UMP had been suffering from that various electoral defeats after 1994. Their middle class base totally eroded after Lalita Tulatmudali's this thing, and their Sinhala Buddhist vote base has also been eroded during the Indulanka Accord, after the Indulanka Accord, and after Mr. Ranasinghe Premadasa's aborted peace journey with the LTT, which cost his life. And also they eroded their vote base there in the Muslims, and the other Muslim parties, especially Muslim Congress and other parties, actually encroaching the UMP's Muslim vote base, and also the Tamil vote base as well. So UMP has been a shrinking party, right? And SJB was kind of a breakaway group from that. So in order to be a significant, the acceptable party to the middle class, the growing middle class here, and also the Sinhala Buddhist electorate, and also the Muslim and Tamil electorate, SJB, I think, has to be changed structurally, and also it should be branded as a proper, new party to address the burning issues, and new, that individuals who are actually delivered, not only professionals, isolated, educated professionals, those who are delivered in their respective fields.
And you did mention that there's a lot of corruption going on. If a future government is formed, and if there are politicians with allegations of corruption, do you believe that these individuals should join future governments?
I think that must be addressed, right? In 2015, January 21st, the first cabinet meeting was held. Our good governance, Yapalandu, right? At that cabinet meeting, I submitted a paper to address this corruption issue. Later on, in 2016, I again submitted a cabinet paper to address this issue. We need kind of a new laws, like in Hong Kong, like in Singapore, right? And also we need independence judiciary, not only that, unbiased and efficient judicial system, right? Other thing is that we need kind of a specialist there in the government, procurement procedures, because these accountants or the auditor general office simply looking at the financial aspect of the procurement process, but there is a thing called the technical corruption, right? You can use some technical, simple things there in our procurement process to simply siphon off huge money, right? Huge money.
Right.
So you need kind of a technical audit plus financial audit. For example, what was happened there in central bank, the so-called this what do you call this audit from the KPMG and other agencies clearly shows that kind of specialty. Our Auditor General Department lack that kind of specialty. So we should enroll, that specialists there in engineering field, specialists there in medical field, and various other fields to evaluate proper procurement process. Unless otherwise, the accountants or the simple auditors can't simply, pinpoint the proper corruption, that what was really happened, what has been really happened there as a corruption.
All right. Before we move on to the final question, I'd like to know, there have been many leaders in Sri Lanka, and there are still many leaders in Sri Lanka. Is there any particular leader in Sri Lanka that you particularly look up to? Someone you feel who has made a significant change in the country?
There are only two persons. One is Mr. W.R.D. Bandaranaike, who somehow made kind of a cultural revolution here. The unprivileged, that people, uneducated, unprivileged people into the political sphere. The other one is Jaya Jayawardena, who transformed this economy into open market economy. But these two, this one prime minister and this executive president, they had their own, difficulties to deliver things. Prime Minister Bandaranaike was assassinated, and JRJ faced his own things because he failed there in the foreign policy, and his autocratic way of governance was not acceptable to the Sri Lankan polity. So there was a kind of riots and also insurgency, then the terrorist movement and foreign interference during his period. But with all these drawbacks, I think Mr. Bandaranaike and JRJ were the two persons who are actually most influential to the Sri Lankan politics during the last 70 years.
Okay, and the final question, what is your vision for Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka should transform this economy into a knowledge-based economy. This is the new trend. We are now living in we called it smart age or the fourth industrial revolution. This is a new kind of world that we are living, and Z generation and Alpha generation, these are our young generations, they are now dominating the economic field as well. For example, the world is now moving towards kind of a desktop factories rather than huge, factories.
Right.
With their computer, with their internet network, on the other side their 3D printer, right? And also kind of a new services like KPO, BPO, and SaaS. SaaS means software as a service, right? Our learned, educated, young population should be utilized to capture this smart age and its disruptive technologies, right? That must be done, unless otherwise we don't have future, right? On the other hand, we should exploit our geographical positioning here in Indian Ocean, right? I who actually initially proposed this 5-hub theory, right? The maritime hub, the trade hub, the aviation hub, knowledge hub, and energy hub in 2010, right? Still valid. It is still valid, and we somehow exploit this country's positioning here in Indian Ocean between Dubai and Singapore to attract, and also flourishing in these respective fields, like in maritime business, like in aviation business, foreign trade, and the energy and knowledge. And you can add this tourism as well as a sixth hub. But you need kind of a professional, capable, and also experience, collegial leadership to govern this country. Unless otherwise, this family chronism and already lumpenized political, personalities and political system simply, that exploit this country, and countries now in a kind of a crisis. No one can, salvage this country right now. So this new generation should come forward and salvage our country. At the meantime, we have to transform our economy from this what you call this open economy or the closed economy to a knowledge-based economy with innovation-driven economic strategy.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ranawaka. I hope your vision becomes a reality. Thank you everyone for watching. There's much talk about MP Patali Champika Ranawaka these days, and about how he could be a potential common candidate for a future election. Will he lead the country? Only time will tell. We have come to the end of this conversation. Thank you for watching. I will be back with a new episode. Until then, stay safe and take care.